The book of 2 Kings is the 12th book of the Hebrew Bible, picking up the story at the peak of a 450-year historical arc. That arc began with King David and reached its absolute height of wealth and stability under his son Solomon. When Solomon dies, Rehoboam takes the throne. The north begs for lower taxes, but Rehoboam refuses. He increases their burden instead. In response, the north secedes. This map shows the resulting geographic split of the Hebrew monarchy. 10 tribes form the new kingdom of Israel in the north, colored green. Only 2 tribes remain loyal to David's line, forming the kingdom of Judah in the south, colored yellow. The rest of the book tracks these 2 rival nations through a long chain reaction of poor decisions. Generation after generation, the kings of both nations ignore explicit warnings from prophets to change their behavior, setting up an inevitable, devastating collapse. 2 Kings functions as a tragic case study, documenting how a society's foundation crumbles when its leadership systematically abandons its core values. Early in the text, a heavy, woven cloak is caught in the wind, falling into the hands of a younger man. This is the prophet Elisha, taking up the mantle of his mentor, Elijah. It symbolizes his inheritance of immense spiritual authority to speak truth. Instead of operating from a royal palace, Elisha works at the street level. He multiplies a poor widow's scarce supply of cooking oil so she can pay her debts, and he cures a foreign military captain named Naaman of leprosy, a severe and isolating skin disease. He even demonstrates power over life and death itself, stepping in to resurrect the young son of a Shunammite woman who had suddenly passed away. You would expect these displays of compassion and power to get the attention of the royal court. But northern rulers, like King Joram, witness these exact miracles and still choose to remain committed to the worship of false gods. The prophets acted as a bottom-up check on royal power. They offered the everyday people, and the nation as a whole, a path to survival that their kings explicitly refused to take. The historian who wrote 2 Kings judges these northern rulers by a specific benchmark called the Standard of Jeroboam. Jeroboam was the very first northern king, and to keep his citizens from traveling south, he set up golden calves for them to worship, completely abandoning the covenant with God. Over the next 2 centuries, the northern kingdom goes through 19 different kings. Because none of them reversed Jeroboam's policies of idolatry, the text labels all 19 of them as bad. There is 0 structural reform. This stone relief shows Assyria's military dominance. After 200 years of rebellion, Assyria arrives at their borders. By 722 BC, Samaria is destroyed. As seen in this lower section, a kneeling figure pays tribute as the northern tribes are conquered and scattered into exile. The historian frames this conquest as a theological verdict. From his perspective, the Assyrian army was the physical instrument of divine judgment, the final consequence of the sin of Jeroboam. The complete disappearance of the northern kingdom from history is the ultimate evidence of the domino effect reaching its final, inevitable conclusion. Meanwhile, the southern kingdom of Judah manages to survive twice as long as the north. This extra time is largely due to 8 good kings who actually attempt to reform the nation. This hexagonal clay prism contains the Assyrian record of their siege on Jerusalem. But the biblical text tells us that the southern king Hezekiah successfully defied this massive Assyrian army by trusting in God's protection, and the city was spared. Later, King Josiah discovers a lost copy of God's law hidden in the temple. Reading it sparks a massive national effort to tear down pagan altars and restore proper worship. These brief breaks in the countdown to disaster are undone by leaders like King Manasseh. His extreme wickedness and promotion of idol worship were so deep that they permanently sealed Judah's eventual destruction. Judah's history proves that while genuine repentance can delay the falling dominoes, it cannot indefinitely hide the accumulated damage of systemic rebellion. This is the Ishtar Gate, covered in glazed lions and bulls. It reflects the overwhelming scale and power of the Babylonian capital. In 586 BC, this final world superpower arrives at the gates of Jerusalem. The resulting devastation is total. The Babylonian army breaches the city walls, burns Solomon's temple to the ground, and abruptly ends Judah's sovereignty. Just like their northern sisters, the final kings of Judah, along with the vast majority of the people, are taken from their homeland and marched into exile in Babylon. The very last paragraph of the book offers a tiny thread of hope. It notes that the exiled Judean king Jehoiakim is released from prison and given a seat at the Babylonian king's table, keeping the Davidic family line alive. Ultimately, 2 Kings is a sobering record of national decline. It ends with the people displaced and their institutions ruined, waiting in exile for a true, faithful king who can finally stop the cycle.